Hi there, Matt Petrowski here, and in this video we are going to take a look at editing and modifying SVG icons within the Theme Studio. Now over here on the side, I have selected my own resource of Theme Studio, but many other providers of icon collections, for example, here's a Glyphish versions 4 through 8, where I have 1,600 different items. They also provide the SVGs, and I imported these into the Theme Studio using the convenient import feature. But with my resource over here on the side, I can actually create custom icons and build them out of SVGs that are provided by other people as well. And we'll take a look at a resource that you can access in order to get SVG icons, where you can pay a very small amount for whatever type of icon you want. But let's say, for example, that I am going to create something like a settings check icon. Well, I'm going to grab my gear icon, make sure that I'm selected on the Theme Studio's renderer section, and drag that SVG file in here. FileMaker is going to render the icon. I'll make sure that whatever size I want to use is at the size that I need, and I'll sort of set my initial starting color. Let's say that I want it to be a grayish color, so I'll put in 20-20-20. That's actually black. I want to go a little bit higher than that. Let's go EE. This is, again, in hex, and that's a very light gray. This would be maybe a very subtle version, maybe like the version that I have up here up in the top, where when you hover over the icon, it goes between different states. And I did this all within the Theme Studio. You can do a gray version and then a lighter version. In fact, you can see that as it grows, it's basically just a difference in the size and the color. So I exported one for a light shade and then another for the actual glow color. Did that all within the Theme Studio. But you can see that the icon that was created here, what happens is the icon that's generated, which is a PNG file down here in the bottom, is actually modifying the SVG. Now I can get this SVG out by simply right-clicking within the container and choosing Export Field Contents. And I can export this SVG icon. Now the reason that I'm doing this is I want to show you that with this icon selected within the Finder, I can right-click here on the Macintosh and choose this Get Info. And it's a little bit of a familiar, similar process on Windows as well. You're simply associating whatever the default application is that's going to open that particular extension. So this particular extension of .svg on my computer is set to open with the Sketch application. Now, Sketch is a $50, maybe a little bit more, application that allows you to modify SVG icons. It is a vector-based application. Illustrator is another popular one, and there's a couple others on the Macintosh that you can use. Now, what makes this really cool, by associating the SVG to an editor, when I am within the Theme Studio, this little icon right here allows me to export and edit this particular icon according to the settings that I've made within the Theme Studio. So if I click this, notice what opens is my SVG raster vector program allowing me to modify this. Now I'm going to expand these folders because it likes to put everything within these folders, which aren't always necessary depending on your graphics program. But I wanted to make a custom icon, and I wanted to include the check. So I'm going to drag the SVG check icon in here now. I'm going to make this one a darker color. Let's go FFFFFF. Actually, I'll just select it all and delete it. If you delete, it'll default to black for the icon, or 000. I would have just made it white. So I can click Export on this. Notice how quick it is to get these icons out to be able to modify. I can now copy this from the one document, close my document, get rid of it, I don't need it, and then paste over here, and then size as necessary. And I can do some really cool things, whatever the program is that it supports. For example, here I have a fill, and if I wanted to make this a nice gradient, I can actually control a lot more within this program in terms of what it's actually going to show. Let's say I'm going to make this check a nice green, and I'm going to change the ending color and the starting color. I'm going to choose the ending color first and then make it a little bit lighter. I could do something really cool if I wanted to, making it a circular blend, giving it an actual highlight glow-like feature. So now that I've made my modifications to the icons, actually let's soup it up a little bit more. Let's give it a border and we'll give that border a nice actual black right there. I don't know why I'd want to do that. You can do all kinds of things in whatever program you're working with. You can add shadows and do all kinds of stuff. But now that I have this icon, and I'm going to need to add one little element, which is a bounding box within this particular program, I can make this exportable. Now what's cool is most all of your programs that support working with vectors can export as yet another SVG. And that's exactly what I do. I go up here and I choose this option within Sketch to export as an SVG. That means I combined two SVGs from the Theme Studio into my own new unique SVG, which includes the coloring that I want. I'm going to export this, and I'll simply call it my custom icon, or whatever might make sense for my project. I can actually delete this document now, unless I wanted to work with this particular icon further, because I don't really need it. I only needed the document for the purpose of editing, modifying, and then making my own SVG. When I scroll down to the bottom, all I need to do is get a new record in order to contain this icon. I can do that by clicking on the Save button right here, and it will save the PNG into the 128 size slot. But once I've got that new record that is available, all I have to do is drag my SVG into my container in order to save it. And in fact, if I want to, I can even drag my SVG, no matter where it came from, whether it's my own icon or whether it's from a third-party resource, directly into the Theme Studio in order to render it. And again, even if it's not a monochromatic icon, which doesn't allow me to change colors because I wouldn't know which color to target here in the Theme Studio, that's better served for a graphics program, I can actually change the size and make this a much larger icon if I want to. I don't know where the green went there on that, but there it is. Maybe it was off screen. I can also give it a name of whatever I want and perform internal optimization, making this from 8 down to half or less, 4.3, and then copying this or exporting it and doing whatever I want in order to get this into my user interface. So where can you find some SVG icons? Well, there are all kinds of icon providers out there, and out of all of their collections, they often provide an SVG equivalent, and the Theme Studio does support the importing of both your PNGs and your SVGs, and in many times matching them up, especially if you're using FileMaker 13 or higher. Now, one of my favorite sources, as I go over to Safari, is the Noun project. In fact, I'll get that up on screen, copy that, and show that on screen right there. That is at http://thenounproject.com. So for a small fee, in some cases, you can pay for a given icon and then use that within your solution. And some of the icons are actually free to use as long as you provide Creative Commons attribution. So you can see here, after I sign up, I would be able to download this nice little floppy disk. If I had, for some reason, the need for a horse icon, then I can simply search for that horse icon, and it will come up with a number of the SVG icons that are possible for me to use. And again, once you have the file here on your computer within the Theme Studio, it's simply a matter of dragging that icon directly into the renderer or within your own resource so that you can save for later use.